Hello and welcome to Agents of Nonprofit. My name is Alexander Lapa, and I'm here to speak with everyday superheroes helping nonprofits. Joining me today is Tammy Kyte to talk about donor advised funds. Tammy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on the show, Alex. I'm really excited to be here. I love talking about all things donor advised funds.
And I'm curious to know more about it too, because I don't know that much about the term. But before we do, I was wondering if you could share your superhero origin story. That is to say, how did you get started working with nonprofits?
Yeah, so I was thinking about that. And my journey actually goes all the way back to my university days when I had supplemented university with a bookkeeping job. And so I was working for a nonprofit national relief agency here in my hometown of Abbotsford, British Columbia. And there was a need for a truck down in Guatemala. So I found a donor to donate a truck, and we drove it down. My husband and I were newlyweds. I think we are like 24 years old or something. And we're like, oh, it was going to cost, I don't know, $20,000 to ship the truck. We're like, we'll drive it down to Guatemala for you. So we got in the truck, loaded it all up with goods for the farmers, and drove it through the US and then Mexico and into Guatemala. So that was kind of sparked my love for practical generosity. And but here at GiveWise, I started back in 2018, and that was my first full-time position with nonprofit work.
Very cool. And what is GiveWise?
GiveWise is an online giving platform in the form of a donor advised fund. And so I could explain what a donor advised fund is now, or do you want to wait till later?
Let's go. Let's jump into it.
Yeah, so a donor advised fund is like a charitable bank account. And so at GiveWise, you can sign up like any online account. It takes about 2 minutes. And then you have your charitable bank account. So think about, you put money in your checking account, you put money in your savings account. This is an account where you specifically put money aside for generosity, specifically for registered charities. And so you can contribute anytime. You get your tax receipt right away, and you can give it out later on your own schedule. And so it's just a smart tool for intentional giving.
Has this kind of bank account existed for a long time? And or is it something that's relatively new?
Yeah, it actually has existed in Canada for a long time. It started with community foundations, and you'll find that many of the community foundations across the country have donor advised funds. They're not talked about a lot. I'd say less than 1% of Canadian public know what a donor advised fund is. So even though they've been around for decades, it's actually very surprising how few people know about it. But I think the reason is because they started really with community foundations, like I said, and then they were also with banking institutions. So every major bank has a donor advised fund attached to it through their wealth division. But, they were really for high net worth people. And so it wasn't surprising to find like a $250,000 minimum that you had to have to first invest. And so obviously that wasn't for the everyday donor. And so it's only in recent years, and with the cloud making it, technology more available in that way, that we could offer these funds to everyday people online in a very simple way.
So this is like you said, like a typical bank account, except it's intended to be used, or it must be used, I should say, for charitable donations. You get the tax receipt right away, which is awesome. But then you can allocate the funds to, I guess, any charity you want at any moment in time. Like, is there any limits or restrictions or deadlines of when that has to be allocated?
Yeah, so you can contribute anytime, and really there's no restrictions. And so the Canadian government, the CRA, requires a 5% disbursement rate from your fund. So all foundations, family foundations, private foundations have to disperse this 5%. But other than that, there is no restriction. Now we see a very high dispersion. One of the criticisms of donor advised funds, as you can imagine, when they sit in banks like assets, and they make money off of your charitable assets sitting in their bank account. So they're not maybe so eager for you to give those funds away. Whereas at GiveWise and at many other independent donor advised, our disbursement rate is way above the average. I think last year it was like 52%. So 52% of contributions in then went out to charities. And we have many people who put $100 in and just grant it right out. And they just like that all in one place concept of the donor advised fund.
Right, because the idea would be, I don't really know who I want to donate to today, but I want to make one at some point in time, and I want to be able to benefit from the tax receipt to lower my income taxes. So I can donate to this now at the end of the year and then figure out a plan for later on. That would be basically the use case, right? For a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And it might be a good time for me to jump back, just the origin story a little bit because it ties to that and why we started GiveWise. So my husband and I were residential home builders. We were a partner in a company called DKT Homes where we did high-end custom residential family units. And so we would have, builder income, high income years, low income years, 2008 when the markets crashed and we had the houses sitting. But we always wanted to give consistently through our 20-year building career. And, at one point we discovered donor advised funds and we were like, why did not anyone tell us about this earlier? Because you can just even out those high years and you have money put away in those high years. You've saved the taxes and now you can give out more evenly. And we also just hated the administration of giving. We had spreadsheets, we were tracking those receipts, trying to figure out who you gave to, how much, and, come December, trying to figure out, are you in the right place? Have you hit your giving goals? Have you given what you promised you would give, et cetera, et cetera. So we love the idea of one account, one receipt, tracking my full giving journey.
I can definitely see the practicality if you're donating to more than one charity, because if you have one, well, there's still the benefit of doing it at a later point in time, but there's a larger benefit if you have multiple charities you want to donate to and
exactly
keeping track. Okay, that makes sense. So that was basically the problem you're trying to solve, right? It's just how to make sure that that you've allocated or you've donated everything you've wanted to donate for the year and the places it went to. So that's really the end user problem, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Removing barriers to giving essentially makes people more generous because it makes it more simple and therefore more joyful because when you remove administrative headaches from people's lives, they're willing to jump in more and give more. And then I think also just on the other side of things, on the charitable side, there's a lot of small charities out there doing amazing work. And what we saw is that they weren't up to date with the methods of giving. Some didn't even have, when we first started, digital processing for giving, or they had, those PAD, pre-authorized debit accounts. So if you want to do an EFT, I literally would have churches and charities be like, hey, you have to drive over or fax me this PAD. And I was like, this is not the way for the future. So part of our, on one side of the equation was the donors and solving problems for the donors. But on the other side of the equation is the charities and making sure that especially these small and medium-sized charities are keeping up with technology.
So let's look at it from that side then, from the nonprofit side. Is it normally a process that they have to sign up for, register to the app, and then be able to benefit from being listed on the app as a potential fund to allocate money to? Or is it some other mechanism? Like, how does that work basically?
Yeah, so inside of our web app, when a donor goes to give, all 85,000 charities within Canada are in there. So we are connected directly to the CRA's database of registered Canadian charities. So everyone is there. So as a donor, you don't have to worry about getting your charity to be a part of it. You just type in the name, the search comes up, you give to your favorite cause. And then on the back end, what happens is if it's the first time the charity's received a gift through GiveWise, they get an email welcoming them to GiveWise. And we have a whole charity portal built out on the back end for charities to be able to see live gifts so that they can treat those donors just like they would their regular donors, and they can thank their donors immediately and we really wanted to be clear on, like, we are not in competition with you. We are not trying to take your donors. And there is a lot of, unfortunately, I've been learning throughout the years that there is a lot of donor advised funds that actually don't readily share the donor data with the charities. We do share the email, so you'll see it right away. You'll have the donor's name, first name, last name, email, so you can go ahead and reach out to your donor immediately. There is an option to give anonymously, but we rarely see people give anonymous gifts. Every once in a while, someone wants to give an anonymous gift. They have a good reason for it. We don't see a problem with that. It's up to the charity if they want to receive that. But 99.9% of our gifts go with the donors' info for the charity to connect with them.
That's a nice benefit for the charity, because this way they are able to contact. Do they own actually the donor itself? Like, who owns the donor record itself? Like, is it you that, and they're able to access it, or the ownership transfers to them, or is the sense of ownership not even applicable in this scenario?
Yeah, I don't think there's a sense of ownership. I think it's more, it's available to us and it's available to them. And so the donor, has put their info inside of the platform. We do not share physical addresses with charities of donors, but they're free to reach out and ask for that physical address. We've just found through surveys that because we're a digital platform, we try to really honor that. For the donor comes to us because they like the digital aspect of it. And so if we give out physical mail to those types of donors, we feel like that's invading on their privacy of what they want to do. And so, but we say, feel free to ask for that yourself, if that makes sense.
Totally. I imagine there must be some kind of fees for using all of this. Like, when a typical bank account would have, monthly fees, or you take a portion of the donation. If I give out $1,000, do you take, a certain percentage and then allocate the rest? Like, how does that all work in terms of membership fees or subscription fees or fees in general?
Yeah, that's the amazing thing, that really for us, it's a win-win-win for the donor, the charity, and for us. We facilitate all giving for free. So if you put $1,000 in, give it to your charity gets $1,000. Then people say, well, how do you make money? We make money off of larger accounts. So if you have over $25,000 in your GiveWise giving fund, then you'll be assessed administration fees. The highest is 1%. And I don't get any complaints about that, because that means you're investing your money and you should be making more than 1% on your investments. Although we won't talk about that right now, because you may not be making more than 1%, but in the general market, you're making your 5%, your 7%. And so your money, which is actually, money you've set aside for charity. And it's important to realize, once you've given the money, you have your tax receipt. It's no longer your asset, but you are the advisor over that asset. So you get to advise over how it's invested and then who it goes to.
When you say your investment, and maybe I'm lacking a bit of financial skills, like, I didn't see this as an investment. This is more of a distribution of my funds. Like, where is the return coming from?
Yeah, so I'm adding a third element to it. So there's a lot of complexity around the donor advised funds. So in simple language, for those who don't care about investing their charitable dollars, they can tune out for a minute. But if you have a large fund, you can imagine some people, they sell a business, they put $5 million into that fund. They're going to give $5 million away over the next 20 years, right? Like, now they're retired, they don't have any active income, they're going to use that money. So they're like, well, 20 million in 10 years from now is worth a lot less. Can we invest those dollars? Yes, you can invest those dollars. So you can advise over that larger fund, and you can say, I want it invested here or here. And we work along financial advisors to do that.
So this isn't an exclusive feature of GiveWise. This is really just a feature of being a donor advised fund.
Yes. So many donor advised funds will also allow you to invest. There's different, I would say, sometimes less flexible options out there. But generally, yes.
I'm going to ask a really dumb question. Donor advised. So it's the donor who is advising, right? He's not being advised by someone else.
Correct.
Okay, good. Just want to make sure that was, probably should have asked that at the
Yeah.
beginning, but I might as well ask it,
Yeah,
better late than never. Okay. So
absolutely.
that's cool. So there's a third element then there just, and then that the proceeds of the return of those investments, I guess, because the investments can go up or down though,
Hmm.
they do impact the fund. Um, but that money, is it really, they can't withdraw the money. Once they've put it into the fund, they cannot return it as an investment saying, okay, I got, 10% this year. Cool. I want to bring it back into my checking account. That would not be allowed. It's only one
Right.
direction toward, okay.
Yeah, so you just have more money to give away in the end. So your investment grows inside of your, charitable bank account, your giving fund, and then, that you have that extra money to give away.
So is GiveWise using a service? Like, is it a service that's offered on top of a donor advised fund? Or like technically, how does that work? What's the relationship between you and a fund that I could go out and buy? I don't know how I'd buy it, but let's say I would get it at a bank or something.
Yeah, so we are not a wealth management office. So we do not offer our own investments. And so those investments are outside of what GiveWise does as a platform. So if you, Alex, want to, put $25,000 in your account and you're like, hey, I'm a big Apple guy and I want to invest it in Apple, we allow you to bring your financial advisor with us, and he oversees your investment with Apple. And so if your fund goes from 25,000, if you invested in Apple 25 years ago and now it's worth $2.5 million, that money all sits in your fund. It's invested in Apple stock, and it grows within the charitable world. And so we're working alongside other fund managers and wealth advisors to see that to fruition. So we're not the wealth, we don't give financial advice. We don't say what funds you should give it to. You need to come with your own advice on that, or your financial advisor's advice.
Okay, but so then the impression I'm getting is that you are your own donor advised fund. You're not using someone else's or from another bank or another
Mm-hmm.
institution.
Correct. Yes. So we're an independent. So we can work with all of the different wealth management offices. So we have investments all over at all the different wealth management firms. So it could be with an Asante Wealth, it could be with an investors group, it could be with an RBC, it could be with Scotia, or it could be with an impact investing group.
Okay, so going back to the donor side, the sign up process sounded pretty simple. You said it's a few minutes. You get your fund. You're able to transfer money, I guess, through some kind of wire transfer, bank transfer from my RBC checking account, my Royal Bank of Canada checking
Mm-hmm.
account, to this fund.
Mm-hmm.
Get that tax receipt, I guess, shortly thereafter. Allocate the money or invest it, depending on how much it is. Fees if there are more than 25,000, and then just keep going at it, right? Just keep on adding to the money, adding to the fund.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it that simple?
It's that simple,
Okay.
yes. And you can contribute through one of the benefits to the donor and to the charity, because charities might not be set up to contribute all type of assets. So yes, online transacting for charities is really exclusively credit card, if you think about it. And who's making 2.9%, 2.2%, depending on the deal? That's the big companies, right, is making these extra fees. Because when you go to Walmart and you pay for something, Walmart is paying that fee. When you go to your food bank, they're not paying for it, you're paying for it. So you're just adding to the bottom line of these big corps. And so we wanted to, you can give through credit cards. Some people love it. It is easy and simple, but you can also give directly from your bank account. You can also give like we talked about, your stocks, so your Apple stock. There's different tax benefits that I won't get into here because it's a little bit complex for people just to get in a conversation. But if you're interested, there's big tax benefits to doing stock. You can donate crypto, you can donate property, you can donate business preferred shares. The list goes on and on. And so, there's smaller charities that cannot do all of these things. And so we process all these contributions. into your fund. And then, yeah, at any time you log in, and, just if we simplify it, our everyday donor, they get paid every second Wednesday, and they want to give, 2% of their paycheck to their charitable giving account. So they just have it set up every Wednesday, $100 goes into their giving fund. And before they know it, they've got $1,000 in there. And then they log in and they say, I want to give here. Or someone knocks at the door of the Cancer Society and they pull out their phone and they give from their app.
Jumping to the nonprofit side. So I remember you said that they don't have to actually sign up for anything. They will receive an email if it's the first time someone has donated to their cause. And then I guess they can work with you to figure out what happens next. I know we spoke in one of the previous conversations about, like, if a small charity didn't have a donate button today, and they use another system for donations, this is something that you're also in the process of setting up. So that's another advantage, I guess, of them having some kind of business relationship with you.
Yeah, so we offer both a primary give button and a secondary give button. So some people have their primary give button. It's already integrated into their CRM and everything for their charity, so they don't want to touch that. Although we can offer the button to be your only button. We call it Give Genius. It's in beta right now, and we're really excited about it because it does educate donors and it gives donors a view into all the different giving methods that you can do. And many charities have a other ways to give page, and it gets really messy because, just like me talking about it, gets very complicated, right? Like, the world is a complicated place when it comes to finances, but let's make it easy for donors. If you're just interested in credit card, fine, it's at the top. If you're interested in just giving directly from your bank, it's right there. But if you do want some of these sophisticated ways of giving, maybe you own a business or you have varying tax years, or you've come into some money recently through an inheritance or whatever it may be, you might want to investigate some of these other options. And that's all done through one button.
I imagine by being your own institution, I mean, to a certain extent, you're holding on to certain money. Trust is a huge factor in your business. How do you elicit trust from both the donor side and the nonprofit side?
I think that a lot of times, it comes down to people. Trust comes down to people, and we're very relational. So while we are an online giving platform, we're relational in that you can still pick up the phone and talk to us. And, we've just been built through trust. It's our first year of full out marketing. So for 6 years, we've been in the market and we've just been growing word of mouth. And, when people know you, people knew us from our community. We have a lot of builders, developers, that kind of thing. And it just grows, I think, word of mouth. And so I think we've created a good reputation. And also just our origin story, the fact that we came out of the world of building, and we started this out of a passion project really for generosity. I think that alone creates an element of trust there.
Do you have any success stories you'd love to share with the listeners?
I think that we have several. I'll give you a couple different examples of success stories. One from a university student who started using us while they were working part-time, very generous. I loved, in the early days, I was in the operations and I would see, transactions, and I just love seeing people use it consistently and set up these monthly recurring contributions to their fund. And month after month after month, I kept seeing this one individual just consistently. It was somebody who I knew. And so it was really just a cool story. And I got to interview him and ask him, why does he do this? And so it's really cool to just see somebody in their 20s who has this consistent heart for generosity and makes, even though it's small amounts, makes that a priority in their life. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we were working with one high net worth donor who gave a lot of money away. And when we introduced this other type of giving, which is again another complex way that you can give, they were just blown away because they had a business which again had really high income years. They were able to put so much more. They were able to add a zero onto their fund. And then when that happens, their contribution has an extra zero, and so do all their gifts going out. And it just really freed that person up to be so generous beyond what they could even have dreamt of, just because of the tax savings that they saw. So those are two stories on either end of the spectrum. And I think, both are just really important stories to tell.
It's an interesting element because it's not then just for individuals, but if you're like a solopreneur or a small business owner,
Mm-hmm.
you also are able to, as a business owner, contribute toward it as well.
And it's one of my favorite topics is we also have a feature called share funds. So it works so well for businesses and their employees, and also for parents and their kids, or grandparents and their kids. So you can put money into your fund. So Alex, you contribute $100 or $1,000, and you're like, I have 10 employees and I want to share it with all my employees. Doesn't go to them, it goes to their giving fund. So now they get to decide where to give it. You get the tax receipt as the business or as the individual. So as a business owners, we have business owners sharing with their employees. And I think it's a new way of giving, because a lot of times businesses will be like, we give to the local food bank, we give to this. And that's really great. And you can still do that as a business. But I think you're showing trust in your employees when you say, hey, every year, something we do, we actually practice this here at GiveWise. Our employees get money on their work anniversaries every year, and then they get to give it wherever they want, no strings attached. So whatever the cause is on your heart, I'm not going to tell you as the executive director where you need to give that money. I trust you. I give it to you. The receipt stays with me or my business, and you get to give it away.
That is pretty cool. Awesome. Curious to know about any future plans you have. I mean, I know you mentioned this Genius button, Donate Genius,
Mm-hmm.
and I also understand you're only in Canada at the moment. Any interest or any plan to expand to the US?
Yeah, with the technology that we have loosely entertained ideas of going to other countries. But, honestly, we've been so busy just putting our heads down and getting this platform built to a place where we're happy with it and everything's flowing smoothly, that we haven't really explored those things. What we have explored is, like you said, the Give Genius button, which is the one done shop for all your giving. And then to support that, we're also launching something that we can come and talk to you. You can suggest to your top 10 donors, maybe, or your top 100 donors, depending on the size of your charity. You're amazing at your cause. All these nonprofit leaders are amazing at their cause, but a lot of them feel inept to speak about how to give and how to get these larger gifts. And so we have people in our network, professionals that can come and lead events like this, and we can offer this to charities. So we wanted something sort of at the top level for donors to be able to understand it. We're going to be offering webinars on this. You can co-brand it with your charity and send it out to your donors. So those are some things to watch for to come.
Awesome. So if people have additional questions or they want to learn more about the platform, where can they go?
GiveWise.ca, where you'll find all the information, and you'll see a button there that you can sign up for a fund. I always say, people say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I'm like, take the 2 minutes, set up a fund, poke around in it. It doesn't cost you anything. Play around, stick $10 in with your credit card, give $10 to your local food bank, and kind of just watch the process and then take it from there.
That's a great way to start. And actually, in all transparency, I did that also between the first time we had our conversation and today. So it's cool. It is easy to use, and that's why I'm happy to talk about it today. Tammy, thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you so much for building this app. I think it's a great introduction to the market, and I'm happy also to you in educating us about the Donor Advice Fund.
Well, thanks so much, Alex, for having me. It's always a pleasure to talk about donor advised funds, educate the Canadian public, and also just share my heart about GiveWise. So thank you.
All right, that's it for today. I'm Alexander Lapa, and I hope you join me again in the next Agents of Nonprofit.